What is going on, and welcome back into Barley Studios, everybody. Now today in the studio we're starting off a new oil painting project. Now although this is a highlight clip of the full-length content, I thought I would make a gesso dedicated video. Now we're going to be working with a brand new canvas here, a 16 by 16 Master Touch Grandeur Collection canvas. I really love these canvases from Hobby Lobby. Not only are they great quality, but they're very deep, and I really do think they look really great on the wall, and they give a really good kind of gallery look effect without having to apply like a frame or anything to the canvas. So what we're going to do here is we're working with gesso in this video, and now this is what's just I have left over from this container here. There's not a whole lot in it, so we're kind of just scrimping the last little drips out of this bottle before I have to go buy a new one. It's just part of the process, and we use what we have until every drop is gone, right? So what we're going to do here now is we're going to put around 1 to 2 layers of gesso on this canvas, and I really just wanted to have like a lot of texture to it. And there really doesn't have to be a rhyme or reason to the overall design that you put on the canvas. And you can always come back in and you can add like mediums to it. You could add gels and different types of additives to your canvas to give a really 3D effect. And of course you can add those mediums into your paint as well to get a really thick layered effect. But I just wanted to kind of do that with gesso this time. I do have a gessoed playlist here on my YouTube channel, and I really don't have a lot of content in it. And since we were going to go ahead and apply like a kind of a stucco, a little bit of a built-up gesso layer to this canvas, I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to create a solo video for this. Now, although we are putting white gesso on a white canvas, it is difficult to see at times, and I did doctor the overall saturation of the image to try to get this to where it's a little bit more visible without kind of really distorting the color. But just be aware though that we will put a wash on this canvas at the very end of this video, so that way you can kind of see some of that texture popping through. So hang tight, guys. At the very end of the video we will kind of detail this so that you can kind of see some of that coming through the camera if you can't see it already. Now as far as the first layer, a little bit of that canvas popping through is my desired look. But as you can see, I'm using a large palette knife here, and we're really just kind of throwing it on there, smoothing it out, spreading it out a little bit here and there before we come back with another layer later on in the overall process. All right, so this time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply the actual gesso layer to my palette knife itself. And I'm really scrimping the bottom of the barrel here. So if I get a little splatter on myself, it's all my own fault. But what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of smear this on in particular areas. Now, I am going to try to have the overall shape of the flower in my mind's eye as I'm just applying some of these layers. But I'm really just having fun with it and just moving the gesso here and there and just building up on the existing gesso layer that we have already established there. This is just a really fun process, and it's supposed to be relaxing, and if it takes more than one day because you're waiting for the gesso layer to dry, then all for it. It's completely fine to wait that time out and get the desired effect. Of course, you can apply a lot thicker gesso than what I'm applying here, or you can apply like a gel medium to the canvas as well if you would like to build up different layers. You can also build up those layers as you're actually painting it, but I just thought it'd be kind of cool to use gesso. So here on the very bottom of the canvas, you can see where I'm working. You can actually see a little bit of that build up on the canvas there. You can see a little bit at the very top of the canvas where the halo light or the lighting behind me is kind of hitting that really glossy, wet gessoed layer. And you can kind of see how it's sporadically kind of cascaded over the canvas pores. So again, we're going to apply more to our palette knife here, and we're going to go ahead and just throw this on here. As I build up layers, I'm going to start to apply this very much more thick than I did the previous layers, and I'll try to just build up some of those my favorite raised edges from previous layers. In total, I only do probably about maybe 2 layers, maybe 3 at the most. But of course, you could do more if you wanted to. Just wait for it to dry, and then that way you're not smearing that under layer that you are working with. I'm not going to cascade this layer over on the outside edges of the canvas. I'm going to kind of just scrape it off and let it stop at the outside edge of the actual painting surface itself. I'll probably paint the outside edges of the canvas maybe like a white or a possibly an ivory black, depending on how bright the overall flower in oils that is that we create. So we'll kind of see how that turns out as we paint that. I don't plan a ton of my paintings out like that. I just like to go with the flow. That way I'm not kind of being restricted by any kind of direct source material. But when I do release the entire video, including the overall oils paint work, then I will introduce my overall my reference photo for my painting. And that is a painting that I had taken at Tanglewood Park in North Carolina. It's over in Clemens, North Carolina, and it's a very nice park. They have RV camping, swimming, horseback riding, and all things in between. So there you are. You can kind of see that layer built up there. And then here we are putting yet another layer on, you guys. As you can see, I am going in a circular motion here. Now, I don't really follow this overall kind of circular motion with my actual flower when I get to painting that, but this is just giving us a lot of fun texture. So sit back and enjoy, guys, as we kind of just layer in these gesso layers before we get into the kind of a wash over the overall textured background gesso layer. All right, you guys, so that's the last layer of gesso here. And in this B-roll footage here, you can kind of see just a little bit of a close-up view of that texture. And we're going to bring this forward a little bit by applying a nice wash to this. Now, that's going to be an acrylic wash, and it's going to be mainly a burnt umber as well as a little bit of raw sienna. So we'll kind of bring that into this overall process, and we'll really brighten these gesso marks up, so that way you can really see them on camera, and it also allows me to tone the canvas before I start to work in some pastels. I've been really looking forward to introducing pastels into some of my oil paintings, and today is the day to do so. I did order a few of those. You'll see that at the very end of this video, but just as like a highlight clip before I roll into my last credits there. But just be aware that I look forward to applying this acrylic wash layer. We're going to go into pastels, a very thick pastel overall block in, and then we're going to start to work in our dark oils before we start to work up into the light ones here. I'm making sure that this is very wet as I'm applying this. If it drips, I'm not worried about it whatsoever. Everything's going to get painted over as we start to build up layers of texture and oil paints. And it's going to be a very fun process. I must say, though, that as I begin to work into the oils, though, I really do start off very dark with the first coat of oils, and then we'll start to build up the lighter tones and colors from there. So I'm really kind of just being very detailed about where I want that paint to settle into. It's not really a priority, but I just want to make sure I kind of get a good coverage overall, not only just so that I'm happy with the coverage of it. It gives me an idea how the paint would run if I do any drips or anything like that on the canvas itself. And at this point in time, I don't know if I'm going to do drips, but if I do, then I'll know how they react to the overall gesso layer and that texture we built up. Using the heat gun, of course, to try and dry this out just a little bit, because I did apply quite a bit of water there. And I'm also using a blending brush here, just a really nice soft brush, and we're kind of blending out some of those harsh edges. If I don't blend out any of those harsh edges, sometimes that paint just really takes a little bit of that texture away. Again, just remember that it's not a super thick layer, it's just a nice detail gessoed layer. You can kind of see where that paint settles into all those nooks and crannies where that gesso is sitting, and it really does give a great texture overall. I'm really happy with how it turns out. Now the paints are the oils that we're going to apply are very thick, just be aware, so some of this will get washed out, but a lot of it will be survive the overall painting process, and you'll really see a lot of this texture come back when we start to get into the bright highlights of the overall painting later on in the last portions of the painting video. Here are those oils as well as pastels, oil pastels that I had ordered specifically for this project and to use here in the near future. I may introduce that pastel video in its own entire playlist, so just be aware that may be coming out also. Like and subscribe. Catch you later, guys.